Welcome to the Power Couples Rock podcast, where our mission is to build a collective community of marriages, where we encourage, inspire, and support one another in order to have masterful marriages. We're Carlos, Catherine, Chris, and Sonia. Please check us out, powercouplesrock.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. We believe that one of the most amazing legacies we can leave in life is a great marriage. So we hope you'll listen, learn, and love the conversation. Let's power up. Hey. Welcome again to the Power Couples Rock podcast. My name is Chris. I'm here with my most beautiful wife, Sonia. Hi, Sonia.
Hi. Hi, Power Couples.
Sonia's looking super hot today, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
Go, Sonia.
Yeah, I'm just going to let the world know.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
I love that little dress.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm here with the greatest couple in the universe, Carlos and Catherine Green.
Amen.
What's up, Power Couples?
What's up, Power Couples? We're here with the greatest couple in the universe.
This is awesome.
You are. So the last podcast, hopefully that you may have already listened to, if you haven't listened to the one before, which is on love and what love looks like from the wife's perspective, you can go and listen to it later. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go back now and listen to it. You can listen to the one where you're in now. But these two go together, so make sure you do go and listen to the Love podcast in addition to this one. But in any event, we're talking about LOVE and RESPECT, and we had a really great discussion that was so great. It went longer than we thought it would, so we're going to making this a two-part series. You can listen to them together, individually. Snackable podcast is our mission here. So let's snack on RESPECT and let's find out what it means to me.
I know the Queen of Soul said it better than
Yeah.
Woo!
So what does respect look like for you guys?
I always have to go back to the scripture that we talked about in Ephesians 5, starting at verses 31 through 33. And specifically that last verse, nevertheless, let every one of you in particular so love his wife, even as himself. And the wife, see that she reverences, honors, respects her husband. And so defining what respect is, what does respect look like for a man? I would say for me is if you do anything to degrade my character, to degrade my integrity, to question me regarding my motives, my intentionality on life and what I'm trying to pursue and to help our family do, that is being very disrespectful to me. And especially if you do it in front of others.
Yeah.
If you say something, if we're in a crowd of people, the worst thing you can do as a wife is to say something so disrespectful about your husband.
Mm-hmm. That
will crush spirits.
Yes.
And I thank God my wife hasn't done that because we've had that discussion. But I've seen women that will, even if they're just doing it jokingly, and they continue to do it jokingly, it starts to erode that respect. It starts to crush a man's spirit.
That's true.
That you don't want that to happen. Chris, you can respond to that.
That's huge. It's definitely one of the things in terms of what respect looks like to me. It sort of falls under the umbrella of generally how she treats me. And it's not just in front of other people, but even individually.
Correct.
Right. And it's about how she speaks to me and how I see her speaking to others. And I find myself sometimes going, I wish she spoke to me a little bit more like that, as opposed to the way she may be speaking to me in the kitchen about whatever. And there's a whole, could be a whole different reason as to why she's talking to me that way. But it really sort of goes back to how she treats me, and it's not just speech, but it's also physical, and not physical sexual.
Mm-hmm.
This is not about her and I making love. This is about how she is physically with me. And again, it sort of goes back to the, you may see other couples where the wife has got her arm around, and they're holding hands. They're a little bit more, and who knows what else is going on in their lives, and if it's all a facade or whatever. But I yearn for her touch, a hug, a touch on my back, a touch on my shoulder, just really in the speech that all sort of falls under how I'm treated and respected, as a husband. Another way that I look at being respected is the support that a wife has for a husband's dreams, ideas, aspirations. You touched on it a little bit, Carlos. So there's lots of men who are listening to this, and they have something they've always wanted to do. And I don't care if it's, I don't know, making wooden birdhouses, or if it's playing bass in a rock band, or if it is, whatever. Your aspiration and what you want to do is a big deal for a guy.
It is.
It really is. And I feel like respect comes from the wife who supports that. And how many times have you heard a wife talk about, oh, he's in the garage working on the car, and in that stupid car, it's like it just stinks up and it takes up all of the room, and I don't know how much money they've sunk into that. You hear that.
You do.
The guy hears that too. And you don't understand just how disrespected they feel.
It's almost like emasculating them with your words. And you may not even, the wife may not even be conscious that that she's not directing it at him, but if he can hear that and he can feel that, that's part of the emasculating that's going on.
Feel that is really the bigger part of it. You can
It
feel
is.
that. She doesn't have to say. She just has general disinterest and doesn't want to be a part, and doesn't come out of nowhere to show some support on any level for those dreams, ideas, aspirations. No matter how corny or crazy you may think, it's really to the man, that's something they really love, and I think that's part of respect.
Do you think that's part of maybe not communicating early on, or at some point, like how important whatever that hobby is or whatever it is, and how important it is to you or to the individual that you do this, and then talk about what it means to have the support? Because I think oftentimes we just assume that they know this, or that we know things, and without even talking about it. And I think we said that on our last one. It is about, I don't know what it is with people communicating. They have problems communicating about. I believe, or I feel this way because when you say this, it makes me feel this way. And a person shouldn't get on the defense. We should hear each other. But if you're having dialogue all the time like that, then it won't pierce so hard
Yeah.
because you would have had a discussion about the way those things make you feel.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, because is there a personal testimony on this? I don't know.
Well,
I'm just going to say, do you feel like that having a discussion would be helpful?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the last podcast we talked about being intentional about having conversations and listening and being able to listen as a husband, listening to your wife's love language and really listening and being intentional about doing those things. I think by the same token, I think let's sit down and have an intentional conversation about what are your dreams? Like, what do you, and have that open dialogue. And if there has been situations where you felt disrespected, what's wrong with having that conversation and saying, this is how you made me feel. And, it'd be great if you could support me a little bit more here and there. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with having that conversation. And then like the light bulb goes, I had no idea that you felt that way. I mean,
because these experiences, when you have experience, it is to help us, to recognize, because you have to have the experience in order to recognize it, in order to kind of fix it or make it better. You do this. I don't know if this is a respect part, but I remember, this is a personal story. I remember when Carlos, he loves to play tennis. Okay. Me too. But before I was really playing tennis, Carlos would play tennis. It didn't matter if somebody called him in the middle of the night. He could have just went to bed at 12 o'clock and somebody said, I really want to go play tennis. He'd get up at 1:30 in the morning and go play tennis. This is how much he loved tennis. And he would just do it all just consistently without probably considering or saying, is this a good time to go play tennis? Or you played it twice today. I'm getting a little attitude because I'm like, tennis is becoming a priority.
Tennis is my wife.
Yes. So I did, something rose up in me. I lashed out as a sense of frustration of like, why do you have to play tennis all the time? Instead of me saying, I want you to be here. Because I need that quality time, because that's what I love to do. And it was bumping up against that value that just really meant the world to me. And so I got frustrated. But I mean, I don't think I disrespected him, but my tone did rise up.
And maybe he, instead of you coming at it from the standpoint of you saying to him, hey, I feel like I need some more of your time, as opposed to saying, come on with the tennis.
Yeah, right.
And he has this dream of being a better tennis player, which is fine, right? And I guess you can consider it a hobby, but if you're doing it that much, maybe it's more than just a hobby. He really was dedicating himself to try to be a better tennis player, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And so there was a conversation where there needed to be a compromise. He needed to hear from you that you needed more of his time. And it needed to be presented in such a way that his dreams weren't feeling like he wasn't feeling like he was getting crushed or disrespected.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think that once the blow up happened, we had to take a moment. Because I was hurt. It's like, I'm just going to play tennis. It's not like I'm going to cheat on you. I'm not hanging out in bars.
You was cheating with a tennis ball and a tennis racket.
Right. And that's my mindset. It's like, I'm not. If the worst thing that I could do for you is to go on a tennis court and play at 12 o'clock at night, because I'm not going to bars, I'm not hanging out.
Praise the Lord.
That's what we're doing.
But she still was hurt.
But she was still hurt, right?
It was the time. It was the quality time that meant to me
that value system.
Exactly.
So for me, from a respect standpoint, once we kind of like worked through that, then she approached the situation a lot better at that time. And then I really cut back.
You made some adjustments.
I made some adjustments, major, so that we could actually make sure that we find a great rhythm for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we had to have that experience in order to practice what, those things we consider valuable. You're going to have those situations come up that may cause tension, because then you need to utilize some of those tools and resources
Yep.
that you have in your toolbox to help you get better as a husband and wife, or help to learn or demonstrate respect
Yep.
and love even more. Does that make sense?
It
Yeah,
does.
absolutely.
It
And I think it's a real practical way of looking at this. And
Yeah.
we keep going back to intentionality. We keep going back to making sure you're having these conversations, because there's only good that can come out of it. If we're saying, hey, look, this is how I feel, and this is, and this is how you feel. Let's somehow work through this, like the tennis example. And there's millions of
There's
other
others.
examples that other couples have. The one other thing that I would say in terms of respect, and it's a big topic, and probably a topic we'll tackle individually on a single podcast, and we've touched it on previous podcasts, and that's fatherhood to in the case of me to my boys, and how I look at respect as, I'm not the perfect husband, I'm not the perfect father, but I do the best I can at both. And when it comes to parenting, it's a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a father, there's certain things that you have responsibility for, and there's certain things that the mother has responsibility for. And you talk through those things, going back to intentionality and everything else there. But I feel like, in a lot of cases, there needs to be a unified front when it comes to things like discipline, and when it comes to things that I feel are important to my boys
Mm-hmm.
as a father, respecting women, respecting your mother, how just basic things that I feel like myself and my father taught me, things that I believe are the right way. I think these are conversations you need to have with your wife, husbands, to be able to say, this is how I feel my children should be brought up. And then there needs to be a conversation, and so there's a little compromise that needs to happen there. But I think, going back to what Sonia said in the previous podcast, is lots of times you're in a situation where crisis happens, or event happens, or situation happens. You haven't spoken about it, and all of a sudden you're in it. And you're going one way, and your spouse is going the other way, and how you're dealing with parenting. So if you're in a situation where your son does something and you are dealing with it from a discipline standpoint, or you're dealing with it from whatever you're doing, and your spouse doesn't feel the same way, and you're there in the room with your kid, and you've got two disparate things, you're not on the same front as husband and wife. And so I think that, from a respect standpoint, fatherhood is a big deal for me.
So I'll let Sonia respond. You want to respond to that?
Well, I'm guilty. I do that a lot. If we're going to be raw and real. But I think my perspective from the whole thing is, when I see something happening in the way of discipline that has happened, or the way it's going to play out has played out over and over and over and over again, and I can see and I know that it's going to completely spiral out of control unless I stop it.
Which is your control.
Mm-hmm.
Which could be my control, or just trying to keep peace, because I know that, or I feel like there's a better way to handle it, like escalating something to a point where neither person is understanding the other, and they're just in a head-to-head battle, and nothing productive is ever going to come from it.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to be both equally frustrated.
What do you do?
My desire is to step in and say, guys, this is not working. Like, don't do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a repeat pattern.
So I know.
And so what do you do?
Right,
How do
what
you
do you
respect your husband in a
Mhm.
situation like that where you know for both of them, nothing good's going to come out of this? Like it is only leading to, I guess,
escalated
heated division. It doesn't bring them together. It just divides them further. So what do you do as a wife trying to protect both of them in a situation like that without disrespecting him?
Right. So if I can,
Yeah.
so you guys have that challenge. So we'll have that challenge too, because we've got 2 boys too. So I'll get into a conversation with the boy, and our son, he has a whole different mentality on how he's thinking it or looking at the situation, and I have my thoughts. My challenge is I keep going on and on. Captain said, okay, you said that 5 times about that. And we're going back and forth, and he's getting heated. I'm getting heated. So what do you do in that situation? What does a wife do?
Right.
Right. So if I could start here, we being men, being husbands, being fathers, we already deal with insecurities. We just don't say it. There's already an insecurity built up in us to say, we're trying our best to father best. And there is intentionality that we want things to work out extremely well. Again, it bothers a man when the wife says something in front of people that will undermine his authority as a man. And sometimes the 2 rams need to go at it.
When you say the 2 rams, you mean the father and
the
the son.
Because the little son is marking his territory. He's growing. He's figuring himself out. And the big ram is figuring out how much boundary I'm going to give this little ram to make sure he doesn't hurt himself and to help him grow in the space he needs to grow to be a productive man. And so sometimes we may thwart that growth if we undermine the authority of the big ram.
You know, and we both love our boys.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
To like more than anything. And the only reason that we may be going through a tough sort of disciplinary conversation is because I love him as a father. And I want him to grow up to be an amazing man. And that's my only intention. And then when you're in the heat of the ram battle, so to speak, and that younger ram peeks over and sees Mama Ram, and Mama Ram
I know.
looks a certain way or says something against Papa Ram. Okay, I'm going to stop with the Rams.
Papa Ram.
Why couldn't it have been lions?
Baby shark, mama
Papa
shark,
Ram.
daddy
That's
shark.
his
It should have
horns
been
involved.
lions. Should have been lions.
Lions.
Well, rams, but
It's
They
perfect.
do.
I just don't like. I
I
just
know
don't like
you
the
don't. You have
Rams.
your lion's
I'm
hat
sorry.
on over
I'm
there,
sorry.
so
right.
you're feeling
No,
some kind of way.
Okay.
But what happens is going back to your dreams, and it basically pulls out everything that you were trying to do to be a father to your son or your daughter, depending on whatever the situation is, when you don't have a unified front, and then you're not doing the best you can to parent the kid the best possible way. We've tried things like when something like this happens, we give some sort of safe word or something, and we go, pause, hold on, we're going to go have a sidebar
That doesn't
conversation.
work.
Okay.
Because
it
I'm
doesn't
so
work.
strong-willed that I just initiate myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
the
then
middle of
the other thing we tried was Sonia would not say anything until it was over, and then we would have a conversation if she didn't agree with it later. Like she would never do it in the middle, but she couldn't. Like she has the worst poker face in the world.
So why would you just be in the room? Don't even come in the room. Don't even go in there with them.
I don't know. I think it goes back to my childhood between my dad and my brother. Like it was the
Just
same
go
way. And
upstairs,
I can remember
go to the
just
store.
sitting at the table trying to do my homework and hear the very same thing going on between my father and my brother. And it completely wrecked me. Like I would be a complete wreck because it made me nervous. I just didn't like it. I didn't like there not being peace. And I really think that that's a lot of why it bothers me so much to see them do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't just let it go.
That's good. That's good.
It's really hard I'm horrible at it.
So
I'm
why
horrible.
won't you go to the store and pray or go to your bedroom?
Because then I get a phone call.
But you're an amazing mother.
You really are.
You really are.
You're amazing mother, but
merciful
children can
heart.
use that.
Well, you're a great dad, but I don't know. I just won't.
I remember when Isaac was doing homeschool, and the teacher or the headmaster said something before she accepted him into the homeschool that just really meant a lot to me. She said, what I want from all of my students is to respect their fathers. She said, I teach that from the beginning. They learn how to respect him when he comes home. They learn how to heed to his voice. And she said, so I don't tolerate when kids disrespect their dads. So she said, that's what I want you to teach Isaac how to love how to respect his dad when he comes home.
Interesting.
So when the boys, I didn't just teach it for Isaac, but she gave me that information. I was like, oh, okay. But so when Carlos would come in the home, we would stop what we were doing and we just greet him when he came in because, we want to not even, they would be downstairs playing the game. And then I would say, Dad's home. They'd run up the steps. They'd give him a hug, and then they'd run back downstairs.
Right.
But it was just, they paused for that moment to learn to respect. But I was the one to guide that.
Yeah.
She said the mom needs to guide that. And I thought, ooh, that's a big responsibility. But, I'll try it. Mm-hmm. And it's true, as they get older, they're still trying to feel their way out. Mm-hmm. Of course, they're struggling. I'm a young man. I'm growing. I want to do this. You're struggling with those things. And they are going to try to bump up to, boundaries and guidelines. They are. Mm-hmm. But the ultimate thing is that they know Dad loves them, protects them, provides for them. They know that without a shadow of doubt. But hard conversations have to happen. Mm-hmm. I too have felt like, I will tell Carlos if it just if you said that like 5 times, it's okay. I don't know how many times you can, say it and put it in different ways. I think
and things like
change
that.
my voice inflection.
Yeah, say don't
change my tone of voice.
But I think he doesn't want anything to be said. Like if I went, you've said that 5 times, it would not go well. Like nothing goes well that I try to do in the midst of those kinds of conversations that's ever productive.
Well, I think
That's
you have
true.
to work up to it though, because if it's been tension for a while, you can't. You have to find somewhere to start that's very palatable for both of you guys. I just would think that because we had those same things,
right?
And but we had to work through it. But my ultimate goal was always, I cannot disrespect Carlos in front of these boys.
Mm-hmm. And here's the other, and for men, one of the things I had to keep in mind in Ephesians 6, and if I look at verses 4 verse 4, I'm sorry. It says, "Fathers, do not exasperate your children by coming down hard on them. Take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the master."
That's the verse I was just over here
just
searching
about-
for. And
Right. So
Yeah.
for us to have the self-discipline, self-control to make sure that we're not exasperating, and I'm guilty of that. I'll say that because I will say it 5 times 5, to just bring that back down and say, "Lord, give me wisdom. Holy Spirit, give me wisdom on how to discipline this son of mine so that he can be the best that he can be for you," and keeping that front of mind.
Yeah.
And I think if both husband and wife have that same mindset, I don't think it's going to escalate into husband versus wife on how we discipline children.
Because
So
I
that's
think
the thing.
there are bad. There's some things that can lead to bad, deconstructive situations, right? If your son says something ugly to you in the midst of that, or is yelling or raising his voice, and you are getting frustrated by that, that can lead to deconstructive conversation. So it's, to your point, is kind of like setting up the levels and making sure that that you're doing.
see, that's the thing that's the hardest for me, because I see the instigation. I see the escalation. And I'm telling you, if you just went, "I've said what I've said, you heard what I said," and you walk away,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, I'd probably die of a heart attack. Because
In
I
a good
think,
way.
in a good way, because I think that can be more effective than just continuing on and just ramping things up. And I think that's why I step in, because I'm like,
Right.
stop ramping it up. And so I have a lot to learn. I mean, I have been dealing with this
We all
and doing
do.
this for
I
a
think we
long
all do.
time.
Yes.
We all do.
Yeah, for a long
Yes.
time.
But we can
Just on the
practice those
respect-
things.
Yeah, just on the respects part of it, it's just
Yeah.
understand for wives, I just want the wives to understand that, again, we have some insecurities and we're not perfect at being
No.
husbands or dads, but trust us. We know we have responsibilities to be the best that we can be in loving you all, making sure we're training up our children appropriately, create some margin for us to do that, and help us in that space by giving us loving words to support us. That means more to us than anything else, especially if you've got a man who loves God, who wants to see the best for his family.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing you can give me. It could be Father's Day every day.
Mm-hmm.
If you just think through that every time that a conflict comes up or something that's brewing, just start praying for me. Pray that I have
That's a
the
good-
right words and the wisdom that I can actually walk through that situation.
Yeah.
And long as there's no verbal abuse, there's no
Oh, yeah.
physical abuse.
Right.
Yes.
I believe allowing the dads to diffuse the conversation or situation the best way they know how, and supporting, and then talking about it after. Now I don't really have to talk about it. He'll come back and say, Carlos will say, "Yeah, I had a conversation with such and such," and just leave it at that. It's like,
Mhm.
okay.
Mm.
So
Good
back-
stuff.
Good.
Yeah, I think just to wrap it all
Sure.
up, I think it's really about you married couples who are listening to this thing. Sit down and have the open dialogue with your spouse and listen to what they have to say. Listen to how the man wants to be respected. Support his dreams, his ideas. Be there to support fatherhood, parenting. Work on that together as a team. And the men, listen to your wife and how she wants to be loved. She wants you to help out. Identify what those things are. Let her know you're thinking about her throughout the day. Be present. and have those conversations and be intentional. Maybe during an hour of power.
Yes.
Where you could have those conversations. This has been awesome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank our listeners.
Good stuff.
Thank you,
Yes.
listeners.
Really good.
Hopefully this will be helpful.
Yeah.
Let's
Power up.
Thanks for listening to the Power Couples Rock podcast. We hope that you've been encouraged, inspired, and supported. Please listen and subscribe to our other PowerPods, as we are confident that they will strengthen your marriage. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. It's there where we can extend these discussions together, take these conversations and your marriage to the next level. Enjoy your day and power up.